Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. I need to clear my throat a little bit there. So, lots to get into. We've got a big update on Paul Mitchell, potentially coming in as head of recruitment. Apparently Ralph Rangnick and Erik ten Hag are eager to bring him in, but other senior people at United are not so sure. We'll give you the update on that. Also, a little bit about Cavani, Frankie de Jong, and we'll be opening up with the article that's coming out of De Telegraaf in Holland, Netherlands, Dutch, about Timber and Antony from Ajax. Apparently these are the two players that Erik ten Hag would love to bring with him from Ajax this summer. Are they likely? Well, you know what? Let's fly straight into that actually. I think Timber looks like he's going to be the most... I mean, look, it's coming from Mike Verwey. I think that's how you pronounce it. Who's been very good, to be fair, around the Erik ten Hag to Manchester United story way before it was actually happening, way before we really were confident it was going to happen. Back to the days when it was Pochettino versus Erik ten Hag. Remember those horrible days where we actually thought Pochettino might get the job? Sorry, boo-hoo to everyone who wanted him to get the job. You lost, but there you go. So Erik ten Hag is the Manchester United manager, and Mike Verwey has been pretty decent. Two or three really good sources in the Netherlands that were very early and getting good information around ten Hag. Not forgetting it was actually ESPN Netherlands that broke the story that ten Hag was basically going to be a done deal. So there's good information coming from the Netherlands. Steve says no one has lost. You did lose. Well, sorry, Steve. You did lose, Steve. Sorry, I'm sorry to stop the show for Steve here, but you did lose, Steve. You did lose. I'm sorry, you did lose. Man United lost to Arsenal on Saturday. It was a 90-minute game. We lost 3-1. It was very disappointing. And Steve, you did lose as well. It was Erik ten Hag or it's Pochettino, and I hate to inform you of this, Steve, but little thing between me and you. Ten Hag's the new manager, mate. Poch isn't. You lost. It's sad. There has to be winners and there has to be losers in this situation, but Pochettino ain't getting the job. Steve, he's not. It's going to be Erik ten Hag. It's official now. So just take it in and enjoy what I'm about to say, because it's not Pochettino who's going to be the manager. It's going to be ten Hag. So very good. It's amazing what people don't know, isn't it? Anyway, Netherlands, very good sources around Erik ten Hag, and Mike Verwey in De Telegraaf is saying this morning. I always say when I say De Telegraaf, I feel like I'm doing a rubbish Irish accent, saying that it's a story from The Telegraph. De Telegraaf this morning, actually De Telegraaf is from the Netherlands, as we know. Anyway, I'll get there in the end. So they are saying that Timber and Antony are two players that Erik ten Hag would love to bring to Manchester United with him. They're two players that really would be the standout two players that he would want to bring to a Manchester United team. I would argue that maybe Gravenberch as well, but maybe a couple of others. But these are the two players that are consistently being linked to United, and we've now got, again, Dutch sources mentioning the two. Now, I do believe that, Stellos says we want Antony. I do believe that Timber is probably the more... And I don't believe either of them are advanced. I actually believe what Fabrizio said. If you've not watched the video with Fabrizio yesterday afternoon, check it out on the channel. I believe what he said is that United have always been very respectful with Ajax. We've already had a very good relationship with Ajax. And we've just taken their manager. So I don't think we're going to take their manager and then start going, and we want these and this. Ajax are going to lose a lot of players this summer. They're going to lose Gravenberch. They're going to lose the right back as well to Bayern Munich, both of those. There's talk of other players leaving. So Man United, I think, will be saying to Ajax, look, we want one or two of your players. We're going to stand off and let you finish the season. Respect. High five. But we do want one. So please don't start selling other players before us, because we'll give you good money and you know you can trust us and you know we've got a good relationship with you. So I don't think these Timber talks that we're starting to hear... I expect all of this. I expect it. We'll talk about this Paul Mitchell thing in a minute and how the media and certain outlets work. But I think because you've got this period of time where United aren't playing very well at the moment and everyone's the positive is ten Hag and next season, isn't it? So you're searching for positive stories, and the positive stories are going to be about transfers. But the reality is, there are certain transfers we can be working on and we can be talking to players, but there's certain transfers we can't be talking to at the moment. And we're certainly not going to be knocking on Ajax door saying, we'd like to put an offer in for Antony. They'll go, shut up, you've took our manager, we're trying to win a league title, come back in a few weeks' time. And effectively that's where we will be. But expressions of interest, politely, and obviously speaking with the players' agents and things like that, that can happen. And I certainly think United are more likely to go for Timber. But I'm encouraged to buy both. I mean, welcome to the Members Club, Brian Lambert, actually. Thank you very much for that. We'll talk about that in a bit. And hi, Mark. I had a lot of exciting plans for the summer, but I broke my leg on Sunday. I'm hoping your content and Man United's transfer work can keep me in high spirits while I recover. Keep up the good work, says Stephen Campbell. Sorry to hear about your broken leg, Stephen. Depends how long you're going to be recovering. As I said, 4 weeks on Friday. Anyway, moving on. So, what we were saying about Timber and Anthony, I think that a lot of last night's show was about the toxicity in the dressing room, which we know. What do you think is a good price for both of them, says Akil? Well, I'm going to come to that now. I think that with regards to these players, if I'm Eric Ten Hag, and we spoke about how he's going to speak to each individual player, even if they're leaving, he's going to find out he wants a clean slate with everybody. I also think to imagine Eric Ten Hag has a meeting with every player in the squad, which is apparently what he's going to do, and he clears the air with all of them. Welcome to the Members Club, James Hadway. And he clears the room he clears the floor with everyone. And the relationship going into pre-season training, everyone knows where they stand. Let's get to work. But on the first day of training, Donny van der Beek, Anthony and Timber are there. Well, you walk in as a player from this season and you see three players that have played under him. He's got his own clique straight away. Now, I don't think Ten Hag wants cliques of players. That's something that Mourinho had, and we've seen it in the dressing room with certain players this year. But I think it just gives Ten Hag power to walk in with his coaches and walk in with 2 or 3 players who know how he plays and know how he trains. It just gives him strength. And I think that, you know, you can bring Darwin Núñez, you could get a Tchouaméni, you could get a Calvin Phillips, but they've never worked with him before. They might walk into the door and go, I want to be mates with Bruno, I want to be mates with Harry Maguire, and that's where they form their relationships. Whereas if he brings a couple of players in from Ajax, they'll come as a pair, but they'll also come knowing Ten Hag. You know what I mean? It's like we can sign 4 or 5 players, but they might not know Ten Hag. They might just start work and fall into the, you know, habits of the players that we've already got. So I actually think it's important that he brings a couple of Ajax players with him. We know Donny van der Beek effectively is one anyway because he's worked under him, but I wouldn't be opposed to Timber and Anthony. And I wouldn't say that lightly. I wouldn't say, oh, it's important he brings a couple of Ajax players with him, because if they're not good enough. But I think Anthony and Timber are exactly the right sort of player to bring in. And talking about the price, well, Timber's 20. I think Anthony's just turned 22. They both fall into positions we need. They're both young. They both can develop with us. The pressure's not going to be massively on them like it was with a Sancho or a Varane, because we're buying players from the Dutch league who are young, talented players that a lot of people are looking at that will need time to develop. They are both in areas of the pitch where we need to improve. Timber can play fullback, but he's more of a centre-back. We need defenders who can play football. He can do that. So Timber's perfect. Anthony, wide right player. We don't have one. I mean, the thing about Rashford is people go, well, if Rashford has a renaissance, he'll play off the right. He hates playing off the right. He came on at the weekend and Sancho gets moved to the right so Rashford can go on the left. Like, Rashford hates it off the right, so Rashford wants to play off the left. So I think that Anthony just gives us a little bit more. So I would be interested to see if we did that. Does signing Anthony spell the end of Rashford at United? You did say there will be a sacrifice selling, and it wouldn't be Maguire, Shaw or Bruno. I didn't say that, Julian. I didn't say there would be a sacrifice selling. I said that there should be a sacrifice selling. We're not going to sell Maguire, we're not going to sell Shaw, we're not going to sell Bruno, and I don't think we're going to sell Rashford is the answer. I think Rashford's got 2 years left on his contract. I wouldn't give him a contract this summer, and I'd see what he does next year. That's what I would do. It's the easiest answer in the world, and I wouldn't guarantee him first team football either. I'd say, if you play like you did this year, you're not going to be playing, are you, Marcus? So I'd throw the ball into his court, really. He could be a revelation under Ten Hag. He is going to develop players. He could be a problem. You know, you speak to people who are close to the club, or, you know, you speak to journalists, and, you know, Rashford does come up a lot. You hear different things. You hear that, you know, Rashford's pissed off. He feels he should be starting games and it's really got to him. You hear other things like, you know, Rashford sort of checked out this season. He's waiting for the new manager. And you hear things like, you know, he's a problem. You know, his ego's out of control. He thinks he should be starting in the team, but he's not putting the work in. He's almost down tools. I don't know what the truth is. I personally think there's a good player there. I've always said that. And I think he will be given an opportunity next season, and it's up to him. But like so many players, you've just got to look in the mirror and put the work in. You know, the criticism is coming because you've not done well. The praise will come if you do well. I mean, I was really engaged with United on Saturday. Whatever the team is on Thursday night, I hope they can do that again. And if you do that, the fans will be with you, won't they? In relation to fee, I think Timber and Anthony as a combination, you wouldn't get much change out of 80 million. Some might say it may be 90 million. So that could be a factor. I certainly think Timber... It's hard to say, isn't it? Because what's Ajax's record sale? I mean, I don't know what De Jong went for. Was he out of contract? De Ligt, I think, was out of contract. We paid 35 million for Donny van der Beek 3 years ago. You'd hope that you wouldn't pay any more than 35 million for Timber, and they might want sort of 60 million, 50 million for Anthony. So I'd be hoping to get the pair for 80 million, to be honest. But, you know, I don't know. 80 million on Anthony and Timber. Is that too much when you also need a midfielder and a striker? This is going to be the problem for United. So we might not be able to get both. I would say Timber is more likely. We will have to wait and see. De Ligt was the record sale for 75. Okay, yeah. For some reason I thought De Ligt went for free because I just remember Mino Raiola. I mean, I'm not Page or Oracle. I'm not a Wikipedia page. I can't pull out every accurate thing. But what I do remember about the De Ligt transfer, because we were covering it, is that there was we were in for him, and a lot of clubs were in for him. And for some reason, because it was Mino Raiola, I was thinking it was a free. Mark, have you seen the rumours of Grant being the leak? Says Dan, MUFC. Dan, I don't want to talk about leaks because I'm telling you now, if you had what I would say about Man United when you're trying to figure out who the leak is, you know, when you're standing in the shower, look at where the water's coming from. It's not coming from one hole. There's probably about 20. That's very much like United's dressing room. There isn't one leak. There isn't one toxic player. Look, next time you're in the shower, look at how many holes there are, and that's roughly how many leaks United have got, and that's the truth. And anybody of credibility will tell you that it's not one person, and people need to stop throwing lies and bullshit out there about what's going on, because you know. The season's ruined anyway. It's next season that's going to be the most important thing. Anyway, let's talk about Paul Mitchell. This is the next big story. I want to talk about Cavani and I want to talk about this De Jong story. So let's move on. So yeah, I think Timber and Anthony, keep your eye on that, but Timber's probably more likely. Let's talk about Paul Mitchell. So I love this about the United fan base. I really do. This is what really sets us apart as fans, I think. I mean, I think other clubs do it, but I love this about our fan base. The fact that somebody who is not going to play in the team, who's not going to manage the team, who's not the CEO, who would be head of recruitment, who a lot of people probably wouldn't even know anything about if they didn't deep dive into football so much. The fact that Paul Mitchell has been trending on Twitter and is a constant topic amongst many Man United fans, I absolutely love it because it just shows the love and passion and depth of passion there is for this football club, that fans get so excited or interested in somebody coming in as head of recruitment. And, you know, if I was Paul Mitchell, I hope he does hear all that, because it just shows you that at this football club, like Real Madrid, like Barcelona, like other clubs as well, fans get it. They don't just go, I want this striker, and then sit back and see what happens. They're really interested in how their club's running. You know, the director of football conversation was one that went on for years, and United fans are really interested in this. So where is Paul Mitchell? He's at Monaco. He's previously been at Southampton with Poch, Spurs with Poch, Leipzig with Rangnick, and he's now sort of head of the development at Monaco. I mean, if we can get Mitchell and Tchouaméni, it would be great, but I don't know how good a relationship he's got. So where are we with Mitchell? Now, what I was told yesterday, and we spoke to Fabrizio about it as well, what I was told yesterday is that United do want Paul Mitchell. Now, the stories this morning are that Rangnick and Ten Hag want Mitchell, but there's other people at United that aren't so sure. Now, instantly people are going to go, oh, it's Murta and Fletcher again, because ultimately Mitchell comes in as head of recruitment and he sort of, well, he takes responsibilities that are Murta and Fletcher's. However, what I would say about that is that Murta's already said he wants an assistant, almost like an assistant director of football or head of recruitment. So I don't think United's... I actually don't think there is... I'm going to be fair here, and it's going to go straight against the story. I think United do want Mitchell. I don't think there's anybody going, no, we don't want him. I think it's very easy to go like we did with the manager, because this did happen. Some want Poch and some want Ten Hag. What have we heard in the last 2 weeks? Oh, he was the unanimous choice. Bollocks, he was not the unanimous choice. Everybody knows. We were even contract negotiating with Pochettino, so he wasn't the unanimous choice. But I do think Mitchell is the unanimous choice. And the reason I'm confident we'll do it, and it's not done yet. Have you heard any reports about United and Isho from Sporting, who seems a real great talent centre-back? I've heard nothing, Arjun. Nothing about Pelini either. Can't wait for Eric to actually start. We will soon see who he wants to be at United and who is good enough. Yes, I agree, Colin. It's going to be exciting. But on Paul Mitchell, I do think United want him. As I recall, I actually think his background, family, is around Manchester sort of area. Which isn't necessarily that important when he's been recruited. He's been managing in France and he's been working in France and Germany and London. He's got a relationship with Rangnick. I think the big, it's a bit like Declan Rice actually. The big competition for Mitchell is Chelsea. Chelsea are up for sale at the moment. There's a number of prospective buyers and consortiums, and a couple of them have said they'd like to bring Mitchell in as head of recruitment. Now, I would normally say that we might lose that with Chelsea because Chelsea are a better run club than us over the last 15 years. But I actually think if United put the offer into Mitchell, he will take it. Because if you go to Chelsea as head of recruitment, you buy some good players and they win the league or they win the European Cup, wow, they've done that. They've done that for the last 10, 15 years. They're very good at that, and that's not taking anything away from Mitchell. But you're not really breaking the wheel, are you? You know, it's standard for Chelsea. They recruit well, head of recruitment, whatever. They recruit well. They get managers in, they get good players in, and they're successful. So Mitchell going to Chelsea, I can see why you'd want to go. It's a very good club, but Man United, surely the bigger. Well, it's the bigger club. I don't care what Chelsea fans say. I mean, you're the better club. 100%, but the bigger club is Man United, even if it is just living off history. It is a bigger club in relation to its pull, but that's not the reason. The reason I think Mitchell will come to Man United is because he's got that relationship with Rangnick, and also you want that on your CV to go to a club that's a fallen giant and be part of that rebuild process. That's got to be way more attractive than going to Chelsea, where loads of other people have already been successful. And in fact, if you're successful, people will go, well, everyone else has done that. And if you fail, everyone will go, you must be shit. Whereas if you go to United, you can't really fail because we're no good anyway. But if you're successful, people will go, wow, he was part of that. So I think the pull of United will be too big for Mitchell. It's just whether we push through on it. Ralph, Eric and Mitchell would be a very smart move, says Stu Mallon. Yeah, but let's not forget, it's not Ralph, Eric and Mitchell. You've also got to include, as much as I've been quite critical of him, you've got to include John Murtagh in that as the director of football. And hopefully Darren Fletcher can learn in that environment as well. So let's not, I agree. It would be very exciting to have Ten Hag, Rangnick and Mitchell, but I think with Murtagh there learning as well, because he needs to learn as well. And Fletcher, it could be a really good move. So I'm confident it can happen. As confident as you can be when a deal's not happened, but we'll have to wait and see. And as Nico says, Glazers could be the issue. Look, the money men are always going to be the issue. Wages, what we put on offer. Chelsea might offer him more money than we're willing to offer because we know what United are like, and it will come down to wages as well. If Chelsea are offering double what we're offering, he'll probably go to Chelsea. But as a project, I think he'd come to United. Mark, you should have a look at Kakare from Lyon, CDM, who has a very good stat, says Nora. I don't know about that, mate. I've not deep dived that much, to be honest with you. Why the hell are we allowing people to learn on the job still, says George Kyle. Well, George, that's the wider picture. I was looking at this the other day, actually. We've got people in our strength and conditioning area which have been here since the Ollie days, and it's awful. We're awful. Absolutely awful. I'm not talking about injury records. I'm talking about fitness levels and energy levels. It's just crap. The whole club needs that reset. But these things will happen hopefully under Erik ten Hag. Which brings me on to Cavani. I just wanted to talk very quickly about Cavani because I think it's really important to highlight the difficulty that certainly Ralph Rangnick and United fans have had since Christmas. Obviously, we had the Greenwood incident. No one wants to talk about that. But that was a player that we lost quite rightly. But we couldn't replace him. Martial had gone on loan already. Cavani's been such a letdown. I saw on his Instagram a picture of Uruguay. Now I don't know whether he's there or he's just re-released a picture of when he was there. But his face is on the window of a plane, and it's like it's good to be home. in Uruguay, but it's not an original. It looks like it's a shared image. So maybe he's still in Manchester. I don't know. But the reality is that we are paying this guy 200 grand a week, and he's hardly played since Christmas. There was a rumour that he wanted to go. He wasn't fit before the international break. He gets fit for Uruguay. He comes back and he's injured. It's just disgusting. I'm disgusted by it. You know what? I'm disgusted by a player that when he plays, he puts more effort in than most, but he can't get himself fit for Manchester United, who pays fucking wages. It's totally disrespectful. And you know what? I think he would have made such a difference. That's why it's so frustrating. Well, Mark, what do you think about Renato Sanchez? I've not heard anything about him, Jash. I don't know anything about him. But it's 250 grand a week, says Bronk. It's so frustrating because, like, nobody can tell me that Cavani over the last 2 months, even if he'd just been available for 5 or 6 games, would have been a real benefit to us. He's been available for hardly anything. Welcome to the Members Club, Vandermeer. It's disgusting. And it doesn't get called out enough that we've basically had to get through the second half of the season without Cavani, so that when Rangnick looks at the bench or looks at his starting, I mean, we could play Cavani, Ronaldo and Sancho as a front three instead of having to play Elanga sometimes. You could move them around. Cavani's intelligent enough to do it, Ronaldo's intelligent enough to do it, and Sancho is as well. I don't think we understand or analyse enough what a big loss Cavani has been. Because whenever he's played for United, he will make a difference. And we've just not had him. And it doesn't look like we're going to have him. And I don't think it's been highlighted enough. And I think it's a disgrace. I think it's an absolute disgrace. His attitude towards this football club, his inability to get himself fit, but yet he'll be fit for Uruguay. It's like a shit sandwich. He literally was not available for about 2 months before the international break. Goes on the international break, plays, come back, and he's not available for another 2 months. Disgusting. Really disgusting. And United need to look at that. They need to look at that. And have they been too soft? Have they been too naive? Because I'm telling you now, Martial and Pogba have been called out for a lot less, says Julian. But Maguire, Luke Shaw, Bruno. I mean, at least they're putting a United shirt on. They may well be not performing, but they're not. They're putting a United shirt on. There's other people who, when they put a United shirt, they're not even bloody trying. And then you've got Cavani, who can't even be asked to put a United shirt on. Now, I'm sure he can produce the medical records, which is another reason in itself, but I think it's dodgy. I think it's really dodgy that in January he wanted to leave, and then we didn't let him leave, and then since January he's hardly put a shirt on, and yet he can be fit for the international break. I think it's a disgrace. I really do. And look, whoever you want to blame, and look, you've got to look at United as well. They were naive not to let him go. We should have let him go in January and got a replacement in. That's what should have happened. But we thought, wrongly, well, you know what? You're not going anywhere. You can stay here. And we naively thought the player was going to go, all right then, I'll go out there and play. But he hasn't done that. He hasn't done that. And the warning signs have been there in the previous 18 months. And it's cost us. Look at where we are. We're not in the top 4. But as Ricky said on Sunday, if we had another 6 points, just 2 more, 6 points, you know, a win and 3 draws, whatever, maybe even another 3 points, we would still be very much in a race for top 4. You're telling me if we'd had Cavani since the back end of January when he put that cross in for Rashford against West Ham, if we'd have had Cavani since the back end start of February to now, do you think we'd have the same points, or do you think we'd have more? I think we'd have a few more points. At least 3, maybe 4, maybe 5. And it's cost us. I don't care what anybody says. Cavani and the effort he puts in a shirt, if we'd had him for the last 3 months, because it is 3 months, February, March, April, I'll guarantee you we'd have at least 3 more points, and that could be massive for us, and it's really frustrating. Mark, Woodward stepping down could be the big turning point for this club going forward, says Anthony. Yes, he could, and that's why Ralph says sign young, hungry players. Players in the mid-30s not got any motivation apart from Ronaldo, says Dazzo Bear. It's more than that, Dazzo. You've got to be looking at their injury history. You've got to be looking at their behavioural traits, and ultimately, like you say, Cavani ain't hungry for United, is he? Let's be honest. He ain't hungry. And he's, you know what? He's not the only one. He's not the only one. There's people who played for United on Saturday who couldn't give a shit about United. Like, it's really not about United. It's about lifestyle. It's about money. It's about them. But we've got to change that. We have to change that. People who play for Liverpool, they want to play for Liverpool. They want to, they want to run through brick walls for Liverpool. People who play for Man City want to run through brick walls, and we can all take the piss out of Man City. And yes, they are a mercenary club, because ultimately, 15 years ago, Man City were a team that would be worrying about relegation. 15 years later, they've got a team of superstars who will run through brick walls, and we can call them plastic and we can call them whatever we like, but they have got something right, because they have got a team that really only started existing as a title contending team in the last decade. It's always had fans, it's always been a club, but as a title winning side, that money allowed that to happen. But you can't criticise it, because they're not mercenary players in the sense that they down tools. They deliver, they work hard. And yet here's Manchester United, one of the biggest footballing institutions in history, and we've got players that can't be arsed. We've got the mercenaries. The funny thing is, you look back to Sir Alex saying, "Oh, we're not taking any notice of the noisy neighbours." Well, they were taking notice of us. They were taking notes, Sir Alex. They were taking notes of the teams that you were building and how you built a football club, and our football club ripped up your notes and threw them in the bin. And it turned itself around, because Man City have now got a manager and a team that is focused like Sir Alex's team was, and we've got a team of mercenaries who don't give a shit. And it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating. There's nothing we could ever have done about the Greenwood situation. That's appalling, and it will be dealt with in whatever way it's dealt with. You can't control that. But the Cavani loss is a massive loss, and it would have made a massive difference. I mean, some stat, when Ronaldo doesn't play, we don't win. Imagine if Cavani had been fit. So there we go. Arteta, wrong channel, Emma. Ruthless winners, says George Kyle. Yes. So let's just talk about De Jong as well. Another story coming in this morning from Spanish outlets that De Jong is unsettled at Barcelona and might potentially look at a move. In fact, we just had an update from Football Crazy. Nothing much has changed around Frankie at the moment. The player wants to stay and the club is happy with him. He's a key player. Well, I'm glad that's from Matteo Maretto. Thanks to Football Craze for whacking that in. It was the line I was going to go down anyway. Did you see the video of Arsenal when Saka went down at the weekend, Mark, getting round for a team talk, whereas United players were just doing that? Yeah, I saw that, Lord. Yeah, I did see that. Have you seen... Elliot Wallace, I'm not reading things like that out, because I haven't got a clue who the name is, and if I read it out, it might be a rude word. So sorry, I can't leave that out, mate. So I'm not reading out 15-year-old players' names that could be a load of nonsense. I'm sorry. Anyway, let's move on. So in relation to De Jong, there were some stories this morning that he might be looking to leave Spain, and then we've obviously got this other story that he's not. Now, we spoke to Fabrizio around this yesterday. I'm going to give you my opinion on it as well. Frankie De Jong is not coming to Man United. He's on £350,000 a week. He cost about 70 million, maybe 60 million. And why would he want to come and play in the Europa League? All right, he's got a good relationship with Ten Hag, but when does that ever work for a player who's in their prime? Oh, I used to play with Ten Hag at Ajax. I'll go to United and drop down and be part of the project. I just don't... He's already part of a very good project where Xavi's happy with him. It's one of the biggest clubs in the world. And even if he's not happy there, he could go and play for Bayern Munich or PSG or Ajax or Chelsea or Man City. It's not going to happen. And I think that I get it. There's a lot of optimism around the club at the moment, and you must always try not to burst the bubble of optimism when people are excited. But all I can say is that I'm absolutely convinced that it won't happen. And I'm not even reverse psychology, because I'd love De Jong to come to United. I really would. But I think it's a load of bollocks. I really do. I think it's 2 + 2 is 6. Oh, he used to play for De Jong used to play for Ten Hag, and United really need a player like him. Oh, it's going to happen. Maybe he wants a new contract. Maybe it's just paper talk. But I don't see it. Yes, Barcelona would love to raise some money, and he would raise some money, but I think the big problem would be, even if United rocked up with 70 million and they went, we want to sell you, I think he'd go, but I don't want to go to Man United. I don't want to leave. So I can't see it happening, and I think he's too good for where we are at the moment. It'd be a bit like signing Erling Haaland. It just doesn't make any sense why they'd want to come to us. Club had no transparency, says James. No trust in owners board treating club like FC McDonald's or Apple. However, if Ten Hag allowed free hand to make proper footballing decisions, then then it will be fine, says James. Okay. I wonder what you were talking about there. Jonathan Barron says, don't be a twit, Mark. There's no losers here. Making out like people who wanted Poch are losers. Don't be mean. We are all United fans. Mate, Jonathan, that's a guilty conscience. I didn't say anything about it. Ultimately, Gary Neville wanted Pochettino. What's his name? Samuel Lucas from the Manchester Evening News. I was listening to his podcast yesterday. He wants Pochettino. Some of our fans did want Pochettino. Nicky Butt wanted Pochettino, I think. Paul Ince wanted Pochettino. I've got respect for those people. I've got no problem with people wanting Pochettino, but you didn't get him. You lost. That doesn't mean you're a loser. If you want to call yourself you're a loser. Man United lost at the weekend. I was gutted. I can't... You didn't get Poch. Move on. You got Ten Hag. My concern is that these media outlets and these ex-players next season, when we do lose games, which we will they still be behind Ten Hag like they appear to be at the moment, or will they go, well, this is why we should have got Poch? And that will be the problem. But yeah, May Ush says Nunez to United for 84 million. I would hope we wouldn't spend that amount of money. I've got to be honest. But you know what? It's You know what, that story coming out from at Plettigol that Nottingham Forest's DJ Spence dream is to play for Man United one day. He's a United fan. Is a load of bollocks. I absolutely know that for a fact that's a load of bollocks. It's amazing, isn't it? We've even fucking tweeted it on the United stand. Oh my god, I'm going to kill the admin. That's not true. That is just not true about Spence selling. That is just not true. I absolutely know that's not true, that he wants to come to United and he's a United fan. It's just not true. It's not. I can find that out in a few minutes' time, but I absolutely know that that's not true. I would love him to come to United. I'd love him to come to United, and it doesn't mean that he won't come to United, but the whole, his dream is to come to United and Old Trafford, not true. Not true. And I know that from very good source. That's not true. So there we go. But I'd love him to come to United. I think he's a modern... He's almost... He reminds me of Alphonso Davies at Bayern Munich. He's so good going forward. He's so powerful. He's physical. He's good in the air. He's quick. I'd love him at United. And it wouldn't surprise me if Erik Ten Hag and Ralph Rangnick had looked at him. There's two fullbacks that I really would look at in England. You're not going to get Reece James. You're not going to get people like Cancelo. You're not going to get Trent Alexander-Arnold. But Lamptey at Wigan, I always say Wigan. I always think that Brighton are Wigan. Lamptey at Wigan and Lamptey at Brighton and Spence, who's actually Middlesbrough. He's not a Forest player anyway. He's on loan from Middlesbrough to Forest. He would be fantastic. But I wonder if I can get while we're live on air. He will reply while we're live on air. I was always told he was an Arsenal fan, but we'll find out. Right, okay. Who is the player Mark ain't happy now? Who is this player Mark ain't happy now? I'm absolutely fine. I'm absolutely fine. I would love Manchester United to buy a right back, by the way. It's never 6 weeks ago, United were not in for a right back, but we've got a new manager now. But going back to prices, Darwin Nunez at £84 million, that uses up 50% of your transfer budget. Declan Rice at 90 million or 100 million, that uses up over half your transfer budget. Anthony and Timber at 80 million, that uses up half your transfer budget. I think we've got to look at what we want, and it's not down to us as fans, but we do need a centre back, we do need a CDM, and we do need a striker. Ideally, you don't need two strikers, but you could have a striker and a right winger. You don't. 2 midfielders would be nice. 2 centre backs would be nice, but then you're talking about a full back as well. Brandon Williams probably will come back and be the understudy to Luke Shaw, I think, next season. I'm not a massive fan of having a right-footed left back, but that might happen. You've also got the lad in the youth setup. Ajax are like the girl who keeps coming back after being mistreated, especially with the Donny incident, says Woom. No, I think the way that Ajax run their football club, they're just very. The way Ajax, not bloody replying. The way Ajax are run, they're just very mature about things. Like if they've got a manager like Ten Hag who's doing really, really well, and then a big club like United or Bayern Munich come in, they will go, look, we're not here to stand in your way, take the job. The same with the players. They've always been like that. I mean, God, you could probably go back further than I can remember, but I certainly remember the team that had Kluivert in it, Edgar Davids in it, Van der Sar in it. They all went, and that was when did Ajax win the European Cup? Was it like 93 or 94, something like that? Maybe, yeah, it must have been around that sort of time. That team just disintegrated. They didn't stay together. The mentality was always that's 95. It was. That's always been Ajax's way. So we will be able to get an Ajax player, or maybe 1, maybe 2 out of them, but we just got to be respectful. And Ajax will always be respectful back. Reisiger played for them as well, didn't he? Seedorf, Danny Blind, Daley Blind's dad, Kluivert. I'm trying to think who else played in that team. I'm not sure. Was Overmars in that team? That might have been a bit before his time. Van der Sar would have been in it. Yeah, I remember a lot of the players from that team. A lot of them. Litmanen. Yeah, I remember Litmanen. He's not going to reply. Fucking typical. Normally, I message him and it's like, bang. So I can't fucking get the update on that. But okay, so look, there is a bit of a breaking story coming out from a lot of accounts that Nottingham Forest's DJ Spence selling price is 12 to 15 million. He is a fan of Manchester United and his dream is to play for the club one day. I will leave you with that story, but I will say I'd always been reliably informed that Arsenal was his preference and that Bayern Munich were in for him. So if he is a United fan and he wants to come to United and United are in for him, then maybe something can happen there. But I will endeavour to find out for the 2:00 show. I would have hoped that person would have replied to me much quicker than that. Would you consider players like Ethan Galbraith sitting on the bench and getting a few minutes next season? Not really, Colin. I'm not a massive believer that Galbraith's going to make it at United. I hope he does, but I've not really been that impressed at that level. I think, as I said before, the ones that I'd be looking at are Garner and Laird. I think they're the 2, and maybe Ahmad. But it's not always about what you're doing on the loan. It's just pure talent. But I think Garner and Laird are probably the 2 of the best on loan at the moment this season. Honestly, Mark, all our problems started after the Mason thing. We never recovered. Not saying that's our prime problem, but says Kyle. Well, no, I don't disagree with you, Kyle. I think that the Greenwood thing did disrupt the team in more ways than one. Psychologically, I think it would have been a blow to the team as well. But they are professional footballers, and I also think that I as much as you're right, argue with me that the Cavani blow isn't as severe. Cavani's a senior pro. He would have been invaluable to us over the last 3 months, and he's just not been there. So that's the disappointing thing as well. Anyway, look, I will end it there. I would love us to sign Spence for £12 million. That would be an absolute steal. And we spent 15 million on Dan James, and we went, well, you're not risking anything with 15 million. 12 million for a right back who looks like he's going to be one of the best right backs in England in the next 2 or 3 years would be brilliant. And he can go forward and he can get back, and he's got so much to his game. I think he's in the EFL Team of the Year as well. He's won EFL Player of the Month, which is a right back is fantastic. So look, I'd love there to be something in that. Let's see if there is. But as I said, for me, Spence or Lamptey, 100% every day of the week. But I'd always been told it wasn't likely, but you never know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. United have got to want him. That's the thing. Are United in the market for a right back? Because we know United can get involved in any transfer, especially a player from Middlesbrough. But are United in for him? That's the big thing. We've got Dalot and we've got Wan-Bissaka, and what United was saying to a lot of the journalists about 6 weeks ago was that they're not in the market for a right back. I don't think it's because they don't want a right back. It's because why would they buy a right back when they've got Dalot and Wan-Bissaka? You need to sell both. And I tell you what, if they did get Spence or they did get Lamptey, they'd be first choice, first game of the season. They're on a different level to Dalot and Wan-Bissaka, and their potential levels are much higher as well. But it depends whether United are going to go. I mean, George says fullback should be second priority. George, I'm going to do a show on it. I'm sure we'll have a good show on it. It's hard to pinpoint what United's priorities are because Ranić nailed it. We need about 8 players for the first team. We need definitely 1 centre-back, arguably 2. We need 2 midfielders. We need a wide right player. We need a striker. We potentially need 2 fullbacks as well, left back and right back, whether they're first choice or whether they're backups. So there's 2 fullbacks, arguably 2 centre backs, 2 midfielders. That's 6, a striker and a right. We do need 8 players for the first team, like we do. So they won't all start, but you want them to be first team standard. I mean, look. Hopefully we've learned. I personally think Dalot has a very high potential. I like Dalot Kush, I do. But Wan-Bissaka's clearly not the answer, so you need 2. And this is where we went wrong with Telles. We bought Telles as a backup left back. You should never buy backup players. I don't see Man City really doing it. I don't see Liverpool really buying out and out backup players. You buy someone like Diaz, who looks like he's a backup, but actually will fight for a first team place. We can't just go and buy Telles type players who, you'll be the backup for sure and occasionally you'll play. You buy a good left back who will push Shaw and could be the first team player. That's what you need to do. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. It could be an exciting 2 o'clock show because I'm going to make a phone call now. Bastard, still not replied. And we'll be back at 2 o'clock. 8 o'clock show tonight is at 7 o'clock because I'm doing Man City Real Madrid on That's Football Champions League. And Twitch will be this afternoon at 3 o'clock. It was a cracking stream yesterday. Take care, everyone. Big shout out to the Members Club. You can click the join button or you can click it at the top of the live chat as well. Exclusive video content and your badge. Thanks for supporting the channel. Also, if you are a member, go to the community tab. The latest community tab is for the members where you can vote for this week's Transfer Target Deep Dive exclusive video. The options are Darwin Núñez, Pau Torres, Kelvin Phillips, Christian Eriksen. I'll be doing a deep dive video going through all their stats for the season, comparing them to other players in their position, not only at United, but in the general Premier League as well. So if you are a member, get the vote in and that video will be coming up. Also, there's exclusive videos for you there as well. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care and I will speak to you at 2 o'clock.